going to become another fan casting episode.
Oh, it's so good. It's just hilarious. I'm over here crying at how hilarious it is to me, but we'll see how that plays out. So, Allies Part 2,
Mm-hmm. The big
next
ones this
verse,
time.
same as the first. Yeah, oh yeah, the top of the top. I mean power levels maybe, but like Tutu,
Yes.
amazingly powerful. Yeah, we picked out some of the ones people were incensed about not making the cut last time, even though they don't seem to understand. We were talking about the Scoobies mostly. So
I mean, even
Let
on the
it be
Scoobies
said we
level,
don't listen to you.
Toot was missing in the last one. He belonged there, I think.
yeah,
But
I mean, Toot is a freaking general, my good sirs. He's nobody's Scooby. So
Well, the thing is, Toot, I mean, I guess we could start with him since we're
yes,
talking about him. Toot's going to fall much into the same category that Bob does, insofar as he's more or less bound to Dresden in not the same way, but so a lot of it is similar to Bob. It's like, yeah, he's a great ally, but would he really be if he wasn't, bound to him and given pizza and all this other kind of stuff?
right.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, in Toot's case, he kind of has sworn fealty to Dresden, right? But then at that point, he does follow along. We see several points through the book as Dresden becomes more winter, that Toot becomes less wild fey and follows Dresden's banner quite literally towards the end.
Does that mean we have
but
to eat the pizza cold?
right. So it's just it's curious, like if somebody could get his fealty from him, like what that would even look like. But yeah, it's just probably like a non-starter. So
well, the other question would be, I mean, he's winter now essentially, so I assume, and I think there's fair reason to assume that Mab would supersede Dresden now until he's out of the night role, as far as who Toot's loyalty would belong to.
potentially, yeah. I mean, I could see the argument, but I think she's also like she's old-fashioned in the sense that it's like it's beneath her to worry about it, right? Like she's fine letting Dresden deal with this thing, and obviously they were used to great effect during the Battle of Chicago and everything like that. But otherwise, I don't see Mab coming down and being like, oh, you know what I really need to solve this problem is a bunch of dewdrop fairies. Like,
No, but it's
so
more. It's also a matter of, I mean, during Skin Games, she stops Toot and Lacuna from doing what Dresden wants them to do because it doesn't suit her needs. So, I mean, whether by force or coercion, she stopped them. So it's not, and that's part of being Queen of Fairy. So she already kind of had that pull no matter what. I mean, they make that point in Summer Night where if they go to war, they get pulled one way or the other.
right, for sure. Yeah.
Now it's just a little easier because, he hitched his star to Dresden, who hitched his star to Winter. So, Mab just kind of gets to be the big umbrella.
Right.
So this is all to say I would probably put him in the B tier,
With Bob.
Yeah.
Is T higher than S? Can we do a toot tier? So, I mean, because again, the difference is just to it. I don't think it changes his tier ranking at all, really. But the difference between him and Bob being that Toot ish, expressed a level of will by adhering to Dresden. Obviously, he was coerced and drugged by pizza, but it's still a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, as far as being an ally, like, I mean, he was more useful than Bob was in the Battle of Chicago.
I would have to say that Toot is more useful by at least a little bit than Bob. Every time he shows up, like he'll put gum in car door locks or stop Dresden from breaking winter law because it doesn't suit him or things like that.
Also, I don't think that's entirely fair to Bob. I mean, he's the reason FMU got bound, so.
Fair enough.
Well, okay, he did the circle, right? So,
I mean, that's kind of importante.
Well, just a little. Okay, all right,
You know?
all right. You make a compelling argument. So,
But I mean, if you want to put him before Bob, I mean, I would put him before Butters too. But that's
I think
we've already established that
Butters cannot be low enough on this list. So
he really can't.
Yeah. Director, where in B?
Or the highest, I guess. I feel like it's not just how useful he is, or just he manages to be very funny without being cringy, and that's complicated to
Are you
pull
kidding?
off in the
Have
way
you heard Marsters do Toot Toot?
It's great.
So cringy.
Another reason never to listen to the audiobooks.
Yeah. Or get a cameo done by him. Just saying. So
he has many fine qualities as an actor. Doing the voice of everyone may not be one of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's perfect. I also don't think I could spend a lot of time around Dewdrop Fairies. I'm just saying. So.
Yeah, and then with Lacuna's voice, he had to go even higher.
This is the only voice that should be changed, and it should be like Tom Holland to be Toot Toot from now on.
Yes. Okay. So all right. I'm gonna put it all on the line right now. If I ever get Jeff Bezos rich, I will go to space and I will fund this Dresden Files project where, we'll have Nicolas Cage as Dresden so he can finally achieve his dream. We'll have Tom Holland as Toot Toot. We'll have Robert Duvall as Ebenezer. We'll just have all the perfect, best casting that money can buy.
I was going to say, we're going to have it's going to be like Mads Mikkelsen as Nicodemus, Nicolas Cage as Harry Dresden. That's a little bit of a dichotomy there.
Right? Wouldn't it be amazing, though? Like, maybe Nicolas Cage would step it up a notch. So maybe that's, for while we're not recording, we should rate. So anyway,
John Rhys Davis is going to be Karen Murphy, by the way, in this.
Who?
Gimli. Yeah.
I mean, I could
with a beard.
I could see him as an Ebenezer. So yeah, but
no, Murphy.
No, I know. I got your joke. Yeah, I'm with you. So
I refuse to accept anything else. I don't care how I spend your money.
Right. And all of this starts with a small donation of $12,000 a month to yours truly. So
yes,
you guys got to do your part out there in the viewership.
We can deliver episodes within 1 hour to your bedroom, just like Amazon can drone your underwear or whatever, So basically the same thing. So anyway,
I really hope not at the same time, because if you're watching us in your bedroom and getting droned underwear, we've got serious issues going on.
No, it's called the future. Maybe you should get with it.
I don't want people's underwear visible while they're watching us. Sorry.
You'd rather them watch us naked?
Yes.
Or would you rather them get droned underwear?
You're just anti-underwear?
Commit or get the fuck out.
Okay.
Should we go in order, quote unquote, of whatever random place I put them here? So,
since when have we ever followed structure? We could go in order, and then someone will say something, and then boom, we're off on Robert Duvall.
All right, Mortimer Lindquist. Where should he go? Because he's been all over the place, right? Like, D or F tier easily,
right?
But so much better in Ghost Story, right? Like he definitely gets promoted. He's one of the few characters that has like huge amount of growth, in my opinion. Like everybody grows a little bit, right? Like nobody's is the same as they started, really, in my opinion. Some of them, it's more obvious in the power-ups they get, cough butters. But Mortimer actually hits the gym, so to speak. He completely transforms himself. So
when he's so upset because Dresden is back. After he's been dead, he should be dead and gone and not bothering him. Dresden is back and asking for help. And he goes to the cupboard and he gets a single Oreo cookie.
Right. And he really should know better, though, because of all the people that are going to be dead and gone, Dresden's not on that list. He really should have known better.
He should have, but he was hoping, and now, of course, because he's dead, and it's going to be his problem. And every time he comes up, that something bad really, really happens, and then he's at his wit's end. He has a single Oreo cookie. Every time Lindquist shows up, he was always helpful. He was always on Dresden's side, death masks of finding out what was happening with Susan. And then in Deadbeat, he was crucial for Dresden being able to figure out where the necromancers had gone. And then obviously he was very important and a great character in Ghost Story. So I'm feeling kind toward him. Let's put him in A.
A? Wow.
Yeah, sure.
No,
I
that's
would have
way
said
too high.
top of B, but
yeah, right.
Yeah, but
I'm thinking B tier just because, like, at the end of the day, he's also somewhat limited, right? His ectomancy is obviously top notch, probably globally, or he'd be way up there in the list, right? Like, maybe we should give some some extra bonus points to any Haitian witch doctors that are running around or something like that, right? But Lindquist is going to be up there as far as that being useful, but like, other than that, like, if he's by himself on an island somewhere, like, the A tier are going to make it, right? Like,
yeah, no, it's
well,
just
especially
like
Molly, now that she's the
he was surprisingly capable, though, of like just being able to take all of those ghosts in and then use their skills as he needed to. Like, he was a coward.
True.
He was going to very intelligently stay home, which I applaud, but he was going to take care of himself and his ghosts.
Hey, Cody, before you have an aneurysm, the name in front of Robert Duvall is Ebenezer, and the priest would be Father Forthill.
Right.
Just
yeah. I'm so happy. I can't wait. Anyway, yeah. All right. So, yeah. I mean, yes, like, he was very effective in Ghost Story and that sort of thing. But, like, even compared to the people in the A tier, like, those guys show up all the time, right? They were at the Battle of Chichen Itza, right? One of them's a Winter Lady. Like, I just feel like putting him up on that level is a lot,
I mean, he doesn't have to be. I mean, Bob was at Chichen Itza and he's not even up there.
Bob was in a bag. Like, that doesn't
Bob was
count.
running around having fun.
I was gonna say Bob would be high
Maggie
up.
was in Chichen Itza.
The reason Bob gets dragged down is because of the nature of his power limits him to allyship of whoever's holding him. It's not that Bob could easily be an S tier for the amount he knows and what he can do. It's just, if somebody else is holding him, well, Dresden's fucked.
Also, Dresden doesn't know how to ask the right questions. Otherwise, he'd be rich, So.
Yeah, like, what the fuck is a Starborn?
Right.
Yeah,
like, Bob almost certainly knows and is probably not bound by the same rules that binds the senior council.
But is he going to ask the Portageek? No.
Nope. Yeah.
So,
Dresden's a fucking idiot, man.
Mort to me is kind of like Binder. He's really good at the one thing he does, and Binder's a little different because Dresden could probably buy his loyalty, and he'd be just as, apart from his own self, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-preservation. He would pretty much do whatever needed to be done. Mortimer obviously is a little more moral than that insofar, but he's also not looking to go out of his way to help. So I think top of B is fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, top is even a lot, but okay. So just to share my fantasy for a little bit, I know you're all horrified, but if Mortimer had shown up at the fucking cemetery in Battlegrounds and actually been useful at the one place that has, like, this immense amount of power for him during, the Battle of Chicago, then yeah, absolutely A tier at least, like, at least. Because he probably could have bench pressed a couple of them vampires for Dresden, but he probably did the smart, sensible thing and stayed home, right? He probably.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine he's wandering out into a cemetery, even if especially if he knows what's going on, but definitely if he doesn't know what's going on.
Right. Yeah, but I think, that's part of the difference, though, right? Too, is like, he is immensely powerful in his domain, but how does he use it? Mostly when Dresden comes knocking and is a pain in his ass. But
right.
But you guys want top of B, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm not putting him in A. So.
Yeah. Director, will you live with top of B?
Sure.
Fine.
If you want to put him behind Toot, that's also fine. I can live with that. It's not a big whatever. He's ahead of Butters, though. That's
yeah. Every person that's ahead of Butters pushes him.
Ramirez is the only one dragging up the rear with him at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, close enough. Whatever. Okay. Who else is fun? Should we get Ebenezer out of the way? So since we were talking about him in the chat.
Okay. So yeah, I told you
Okay.
what happened.
So Robert Duvall, I don't know. It kind of struck me one of these times. Secondhand Lions, obviously. So if you haven't seen him in overalls, Secondhand Lions, him and Michael Caine.
I think he was a really underrated consigliere. So as far as allies go, he's pretty high up there.
Yeah. So but yeah, that was so we were getting into this just to give a little bit of backstory while we were getting all the artwork together and everything like that. But several of these guys, like the characters, right, are generic enough that there's no fan art about them and nobody gives a shit. So like Fort Hill is like in the background of like a dozen pictures that involve, Michael, obviously. But then like Ebenezer, like people want Graham McTavish, which I personally vetoed,
no,
yeah, I get it.
He's got the energy, he's got the baldness, and he can do the
he's in everything. I want him to be in the Dresden Files. So maybe I would put him as like Vateron, right? I could see him doing Vateron. I could see him doing
No. One of the Skarsgårds needs to be Vateron.
Okay, whatever. I could see him be
one of the Skarsgårds. One is either very much not or very too much young.
There's like 9 of them.
Yeah, but yeah. I only know 3, and I don't care about the others.
They're in all of their movies, though. They get cast as a unit, so But I could see him being my brain today, the dragon, Fairvax. So something like that. But we were talking about it, like Graham McTavish is just a little too like, for lack of a better word, like young and virile looking, in my opinion, for Ebenezer, right? Ebenezer should be like underestimated a little bit in my mind. I'm going on a tirade because Ebenezer's like one of my favorite characters, right? But like I'm just saying, like Secondhand Lions, if you want to see a slice of Ebenezer's life, like I'm just going to kick your ass because I'm bored today. Like that's Ebenezer. So
yeah, and I
make Graham McTavish Mac. I didn't know who this guy was until I just looked him up.
Yeah, that'd be a waste of talent, but it'd be great, So
a waste of talent is
Jason Statham should be Mac.
Yeah, yeah.
Jason Statham.
Okay, so my $1 billion movie, I'm down with that. Yeah, so
see, yeah. I mean, like if we're not careful, it's just becoming fan casting.
Yeah, we're gonna have so many cuts though because Jason Statham will not shut up. So, but yeah, no.
Well, he could be Binder too. He's very mouthy.
But there's that one guy that people keep saying that needs to be Binder, and
I know.
It's like, okay,
I know.
It's not the wrong decision, I guess.
You're really like, okay, I should just stop having high hopes for you, but you have been like plummeting for the media references. So, like. We almost got a Princess Bride reference by you earlier. Like,
yeah,
no, not almost. Man. We did, and then she just happened to come back around and catch it. It went right by her. She just happened to narrowly get it at the end.
And she couldn't even like give us the Mab quote. Like, come on. So that would have at least saved it a little bit. Okay, so where does Ebenezer go? Because you're probably going to knock him down a notch or two because of the whole, peace.
Trying to kill Dresden.
Well,
he didn't try to.
He did.
He succeeded. He just didn't get the right Dresden. So
I think Ebenezer is as much of an ally to Dresden as Dresden is to himself. So
none at all.
I think that's. No, I mean because he is that stubborn and he is that. Dresden argues with himself. Literally, he can't. His own subconscious is less of an ally to him than some people. So, but I happen to agree with his subconscious more than I agree with the actual waking character. Generally speaking, what was I saying? So I think Ebenezer can be trusted. Insofar as he doesn't think his opinion is better, which is always. But I mean, he's Ebenezer. He's his grandfather. He's going to hat up and help him pretty much however he can, whenever he can, in the same way that Harry's got the doom over him again. But we know that doesn't mean shit if Ebenezer's the one who's going to have to enact it because he's not going to do it.
Right.
So if it's the bottom of A, fine, but I still think he squarely belongs in A.
Yeah, you're not really gonna find an argument with me. Like, I don't like how he was written for peace talks. Like towards the end, right? Like he definitely completely lost control, and I'd like to understand if there was maybe a little bit something more going on there, one way or another, or at least give us the damn backstory. If it was that big a deal that the freaking senior council member Blackstaff just went off the rails, it's got to have been the White Court that took his wife out and hounded him for decades or something like that, which makes Margaret's betrayal even a bigger deal, right? Because we know he's got some problems with the White Court, and Dresden's always kept him at arm's length, with Thomas and that sort of thing. But like this was well over and above, in my opinion. I mean, he lost control and killed Dresden, so that's pretty wild and out there, right? His sarcasm, though, and his problem solving with the corner hounds was top notch. Seeing him actually pop off a little bit with some top level magic that we've never seen before was top notch. So all of that was great. But yeah, like especially towards the end, like very intimidating, a very cool use of power, a little bit wasteful with the whole levitation. I got to imagine that's a little hard to maintain. But other than that, turning your vehicle also into a weapon, super cool, wizardy stuff. And then, blasting your grandson is a little problematic. So especially because it's his name on the marquee. So, if he dies, we don't get any more books.
Cause to kill their child at least once in life.
Well, grandchild in this case, but yeah.
Yes.
So.
Well, that's the thing with the White Court stuff when it comes to him. He firmly believes that Raith is the one that killed Margaret, and we haven't been told anything otherwise. I mean, as far as we know,
right?
As far as we know, it was the entropy curse that was sent while she was giving birth, more or less.
Right.
My leading up to peace talks, my problem or battleground, it was peace talk. My problem with it was I always figured he would have already known about Thomas, but been in denial as opposed to just flat out not knowing. That to me seemed like it would fit better.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there's a difference between denial and what he was doing, right? Like denial, you kind of understand the truth and don't want to see it. But this was
right.
Like
the conversation should have been, I know who he is, but that's not who he is type deal. It's like, he may have been your father, boy, but he wasn't your daddy. It should have been in that vein as opposed to complete and utter shock that this was Margaret's kid. That made absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah.
And then
he went looking. That after Margaret died, he went to go figure everything out. And
I also think it better informs his hatred that he's willing to be this angry still, despite knowing that that's his blood, because all he can see is the White Court vampire.
Right. And what a great dichotomy, blood is blood, but he can't see him as a relative because
all he can see is Raith. He can't see Margaret in there.
Right. Yeah. And that would be like a great moment of catharsis. But yeah, that was like, there aren't a ton of criticisms that I have for the book series overall, but that was definitely some stuff that I felt like didn't quite land. And it's one of those where it's like, he's got enough on credit, Butcher has enough on credit that it's like, I expect hopefully we'll get a little bit more somewhere at some point, we know that
series after that.
Yeah, we know that it's somewhere, obviously, Ebenezer and Harry are going to have to confront each other again. Obviously that didn't go so well this last time, but hopefully cooler heads prevail this time. Maybe we get it as early as, 12 months or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that would be great, right? That would be a great moment. But yeah, we'll see. So, director, did you have, somewhere else?
No, A is fine because it's like he has all these things that he was really helpful for. He's a very good ally. He's never going to harm Dresden, always going to be there to help. Except he did also try to kill him
that one time.
Yeah, and then there's still that I'm not going to tell you this thing that's super important, but I'm just going to dangle it in front of your face for 16 books. And he was definitely doing that part.
I mean, but that's
I can't blame him for the author's decision that he's not
right.
going to go.
Well,
into
it's not just that, but it's like it's the most common low form of drama, right? Like how many Lifetime movies and whatever else is like, I could easily unravel the entire plot with one sentence, but I'm just too mad to talk to you right now. Right. It's like, look, man, I've been really fucking mad before, but if I had that one sentence, I'd get it out somewhere, you know. So but I can't even blame Jim Butcher for that, other than him using it, you know. But you know, I wish he'd use a different trope or something. But yeah, anyway,
he's also probably got the longest track record of actually helping Harry, apart from, I guess, Leah, who we forgot to put on this list again. And
really? No way! Damn it! Wait, how?
How? The director was spamming names, many of whom didn't belong on, and we got
right. And that wasn't even one of the names. I went and checked. It wasn't a Mimus.
We need to do it in a part 3 because Ramirez didn't make it on here, and Leah didn't make it on here.
We at least talked about it, and that was a time crunch decision. And I decided that River Shoulders was a better pick than Ramirez, but we can argue about that for 20 minutes next time.
Exactly.
So he goes. He's got a lot on as far as being a Dresden ally since the kid's been 16 essentially. So
yes,
right.
I think that's it.
But yeah, Ebenezer being an ally since, you know, always, you know, since, you know, obviously family and whatnot, but you know, he should have picked him from the orphanage, god damn it, you know. So like that's another thing.
I mean, there's the implication that De Morn had hidden him specifically to make it so that Ebenezer couldn't find him.
Yeah, that was the other thing. When they were having that conversation about how you essentially left me in foster care, I was like, I always got the impression that Ebenezer kind of didn't know he existed until a certain point, and that was the problem.
How dumb is he?
Well,
how many grandchildren is he like losing?
That's the thing. It's like, at least with Harry, I would have understood it because there was a force acting to conceal him for its own purposes, versus Thomas, who was 5 years older, and anybody who looks at him could tell you, you know. I mean, granted, he favors Raith, but still. Anyway, so yeah, A is fine. A is good.
A is fine.
I'm doing top A.
Okay.
Anybody disagree?
I think I'd probably still put Molly ahead of him, but
I feel like
I'm
Thomas
okay with
should
him
be
ahead of everybody else.
Thomas is even more willing to just drop everything and help.
Yeah, except for that one time that he also could have unraveled a story plot by saying, Dresden, I'm being manipulated. You know, like, Jesus Christ, that was like 3 words, my dude.
3 words that we ended up making fun of because of the, like, it was such a meme answer that it was going to be Justine, and then it was.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, part of it is his willingness to go out on a limb, and part of it is his power, you know, what he brings to the table. But I mean, I guess as far as like selflessness and in the act of like trying to defend him, I could see him coming in under, you know, certainly Molly. Like Molly is like self-destructively an ally of Dresden, which not, you know, like Murphy is, you know, like the S tier, right? They're the ones that are like, so I literally took a bullet for you, possibly multiple times, you know.
Yeah.
So
Molly will kill herself to save Dresden, and Ebenezer will kill Dresden to save Dresden.
Yeah, right. I'm doing this for your own good.
Yeah.
Look what you made me do. Oh wait, yeah, sorry, it's getting real. But I maybe still above Thomas because Thomas is also an idiot. But
Thomas comes by his idiocy a little bit more genuine. I feel like Ebenezer is like getting too caught in him himself for his flaws. If he wasn't
he's
able,
a high-level wizard. Of course he
is. Yes, he's falling prey to the wizard ego, essentially, which he shouldn't do. I don't know.
See, that's where I'm saying Graham McTavish would never fall victim to the wizard ego, but Robert Duvall might. So anyway, really okay. Really, you're gonna make me put him below Thomas? Gross.
Yeah, I think Thomas, and they can just buddy up together.
Oh yeah, that's even better. Okay, I'm with it just for the meme of him being next to a white court vampire.
Exactly.
All right. So let's do Laura next, and we'll put her right above Sonya. So then he can
I don't think Laura deserved to be as an ally.
I was gone for 30 seconds, and that's mine, Thomas.
Yeah, well,
just to piss him off.
I didn't say I was happy about it. I said that's where he wound up. So, yeah.
Oh well, if it's 2-1, then no, put him ahead because screw the director.
Okay.
No, thank you.
So ahead of Thomas, but behind Molly.
I mean, that's what yeah. But
beep. All right, whatever. Yeah, and I have been going semi-democratically for this. Like, all right. But because we're already on the White Core Vampire kick and the director's mad about Lara being on the list, like I was mad about Maeve being on the other list, let's hear it, director. How is she not an ally?
Why would she be?
How is she not an ally? How are you going to sit there and tell me that Marcone shouldn't be on the villains list because he's an ally and Lara doesn't count as an ally?
I know you have a blank spot for this book, but White Knight, she was a bad guy. She was setting up everyone else to eat people to then deliberately piss off Dresden so he would kill other people. She was the bad guy.
Vampire. She's always setting up Dresden. That's not necessarily like that's noir. Like that's all the dames in noir set up the main character.
They're still bad guys. They're still not allies.
So,
but
Lara was playing
other shit she's done.
Was playing the long game because her actions resulted in the birth of Bonnie, and that
no.
Yeah,
nope.
no, it happened.
Nope.
It happened.
It's a okay, look, it's a non-starter because Lara fumbling around in the dark, just going to let you imagine that for a moment, but Lara fumbling around in the dark doesn't get credit for making Bonea because she had no fucking idea that was going on.
Or did she know everything from the library that was never going to see again?
No, shut up.
The library that was so
Don't
important.
talk to me about that fucking library. that is like one of the most unsatisfying answers we ever got. Like, wait, what library? Like, are you kidding me? We were so clever with that question, and then you forgot.
See? Lara knew. The fact that Jim didn't know is irrelevant. Lara knew.
Right. Yeah, there's probably loads of shit that the characters know that
they know all this shit. He doesn't know shit.
Yeah, right. Ebenezer's so much better at magic than he is, but yeah.
So, I mean, Lara's a little bit, to be more serious, Lara is still a to be determined in some way, but she's not like C tier to me. I think a lot of her stuff can be certainly tinged in the, again, self-preservation, bumping her stock along type of deal. So there's plenty of that. But I think it's probably going to turn out, again, that there's more to her, quote unquote, than meets the eye, and she's going to end up being a higher tier ally. So it depends on how much we're projecting versus what's actually been on the page.
What's been on the page is she is untrustworthy. She eats people and isn't trustworthy.
Okay. So I got my X-Acto knife razor blade here. Okay. I'm going to split the finest hair in existence. Okay. She's a bad guy. She's a bad person. You know, she's a monster. She eats people and she's happy with that. Right. She's a Dresden ally. Okay. How many times has she directly gone against Dresden in any of those situations? We got one prominent example that you want to bring up with White Knight, and I mostly think it was another one of those situations where, like, she could have cut this out. She could have done it a different way. Maybe it's not in her nature to do so, but like every other instance that we see her, for the most part, she's helping Dresden.
She did try to kill him in Blood Rights.
Well, yeah.
I mean, if we're going to eliminate people who haven't tried to kill Dresden, we're going to have a list of 4 people.
I mean, for serious, like Ebenezer. Like, yes. So we got Michael Mouse, Fort Hill, Toot Toot, I think. Sonya, you know, but yes, this list.
Well, and Sonya and Michael have promised they will kill him if need be. So
right. They did strike him with their sword, you know, so yeah.
Mab's Rehab was trying to kill him a bunch.
Yes, but I love her for that one.
Right, but I'm just saying.
But not Lara.
And
But
I
Mab
think
was doing it for a reason. Lara was doing it for self-preservation, for
That's
self-interest.
a reason. It's
okay,
just not
speaking of which, if Mab's fucking on the list of
grand
allies, Lara is on the list of fucking allies.
not only is Mab on
don't
the
even
list.
start with me.
Mab is S
start
tier. I don't care
Mab
if
is
that's a
top of
spoiler.
S. Mab is perfect. She's wonderful.
Mab is definitely S list.
All right, that's going to be our next argument. I can tell, but Lara is on the list. I mean, if Ebenezer gets to be 90% good until peace talks, at least the reverse could be said for Lara, right? Certainly she's doing it as much to get Thomas during peace talks itself, but in Battlegrounds again, like all the stuff with Guard's sister and all of the sneakiness there, like she definitely came off of her like I'm the evil seductress kick mostly. I mean, there was that one guy who almost didn't make it, but it just, yes, by her nature, she eats people. She's okay with that. She's on the wrong side of the monster human scale, right? Like I'm down with that. If she's got to go at the end of all things, I'm down with that, right? But if we're talking about her as an ally of Dresden, like, she medevaced Molly from Chichen Itza,
If Lara's on this list for all these reasons, as you're saying, why isn't Marcone on this list?
Because Marcone helps Dresden on his way to achieve his world domination.
And
right?
how is Lara any different?
Because what does she get out of helping Dresden? Like
Power.
she got
enemies
house
cleared out.
Let me talk, for the love of Christ. She got her dad out of the way, which you can't tell me wasn't like a bad deal anyway, right? But other than that, like it's not like every single time Dresden's involved, she's not bumping off one of her enemies, right? There's like two prominent examples I can think of. Her dad in the Scavis, right? Which again, those guys got to go anyway. Marcone puts Dresden's balls in a vice and then says, "You're going to help me because you can't do anything else." And Lara's like, "We got a common enemy. Let's take them out." I think there's a little bit of a difference. Again, I'm not saying that I'm not splitting some hairs, but like Marcone does good things with bad intentions, like straight up.
To be fair to Lara too, she kind of seized the opportunity presented at Blood Rights. It's not like she was bringing Harry into that one. Harry kind of brought her into that one.
Right. Well, and like, so let's flip it, right? Because one of the things that we said about Marcone is like, let's take all the other pieces off the board. We dealt with Nicodemus, the Apocalypse is done, and all of those things. Do Marcone and Dresden wind up on the same side when it's just the two of them? Hell no. They're still going to be adversaries. The only reason why it's not more obvious that they're adversaries is because there's bigger, badder dudes out there to deal with, right? At the end of all things,
are you would wind up on the same side?
Yes, absolutely.
I think you're insane.
Are you kidding? They would at least walk away.
I also think Harry has made more of a point of saying to Marcone, "One day I'm going to deal with you," in the same way that he has not done with Lara, for instance.
Right.
I mean, pretty much every time they have an interaction, he's either thinking or saying to the guy, "One day you're the bug I'm going to squash," and Marcone's like, "Come for me."
Come on, dude! It happened in Battlegrounds. They look at each other and be like, "Not today." Really? Yeah. Not today. Because that's their relationship, right?
And their relationship is wonderful, but Marcone has been there to help.
Lara doesn't want to fight Dresden. Lara doesn't want to fight Dresden.
She'd rather kill him or use him against other people. She would rather use him and manipulate him.
I mean, maybe on a base level, but I think that Lara actually has feels for Dresden. So I'm going out on a limb. I think that she's helping Dresden because she actually likes it.
Which is why she's
right. And she set up the thing with Mab so that she could get Dresden, obviously as a power play, but it benefits her in other ways. And I think that's some of the stuff that we started seeing in peace talks. And I think we're going to get some of that in 12 months. And then we'll see. I mean, yeah, obviously we've got the whole tragic romance stuff going on and whatever. But yeah, like maybe I'm alone on that island, but that's the way that I see it, is that Lara is helping Dresden. Sure, she gets some shit out of it. Sure, she manipulates him, whatever. That's what White Core vampires do. Whereas like Marcone is always trying to get something from Dresden.
Not always.
He's always adversarial.
He's happy to stand behind him and point, just like okay, here's the
Yes.
bad guys. It's just like in Changes, and Dresden was expecting to have to bargain for information, and he just said, no, go ahead. Here's fucking Odin to go get your answers. Marcone helps Dresden far more than Lara ever has.
Well, I mean, he also does end that conversation with either you succeed and I get something out of it, or you die and I get something out of it.
Which
Right.
is the same thing that Lara gets, for example, in White Knights in the Deeps.
Yeah, so you got one example. We got a lot of one examples running around though. Like,
Well, I mean, it's I would have been okay if Marcone was on the list, but I understand the reason he's not. So this is not an argument I can stump for in the same way. So it's just. But I said B tier for her, so unless somebody's going to vehemently disagree with that, and by that I mean if the director's going to vehemently disagree with that,
I don't think she belongs on this list. She is a.
Weren't you the one that put her there? Like, I didn't just pull these guys out of my ass. You did. That's
happily
you
stepped
right
into
there
this
in the
argument
chat.
because too many people keep saying that she belongs on the list. I just think every single one of you are wrong.
Says also the person who wanted Cat Sith on the list, but I'm just saying.
Because he's wonderful. He was a great Dresden ally.
Like I said,
got him
sure.
a Coke.
She's absolutely in a similar place as Marcone, and I think some of that is by design, right? I think Lara is filling in the gap that what's her face, from the first couple of books, the Red Court. So what Bianca was kind of set up for, right? For whatever reason, Marcone cannot go to war with some other supernatural entity. There can't be a dark wizard other than the one guy that one time. It's always got to be him versus the vampires for some reason. So it started out as Bianca. Dresden knocked Bianca off. Hooray, Marcone gets all her business, right? And then it started becoming Lara, right? Sure, Lara is a bad person. Maybe you can make arguments about, the level of coercion and, methods or something like that. But like I said, Lara's clearly a monster. She's on the wrong scale of that. And if Dresden were doing the true paladin thing, she should be on the list of problems he's got to deal with eventually. But I think their motivations are different. So I don't know. I still think she's an ally, but.
I think you could have
this
said all those
engagement will
words.
probably highlight more.
Right. I think the next book you're going to see, I think so. Like, part of my theories on what 12 months is going to bring is like Harry is going to treat her like an enemy, and then you're going to see her actually get hurt, right? Because she's going
to be tears and the girl is damaged and I must protect her and something.
Weird. Those are all the tropes you like, aren't they? So
yeah. If it really goes that way of Lara is a damsel, I will be disappointed.
No, she's obviously not. Like, she and her sisters threw down with the Nagloshi, right? So I don't think you're ever going to see her be a damsel, but I think you are going to see her be vulnerable to Dresden, which I think is an important differentiator there. The difference is going to be like when you can tell if the relationship, when she's like trying to make it work or not. Do you think she's just a vulnerable person? Do you think she's running around the Dresden verse with her feelings just flopping around everywhere? She's a fucking White Court vampire. She's the White Court vampire. She doesn't just let her feelings out for anybody. And I think that's the difference you're going to see, because part of being in a relationship is being vulnerable to your partner. And then I think Dresden's going to be an asshole because he's an idiot and an asshole. So like,
I think it's just the same thing like what Dresden pointed out in Small Favor about Rosa, whatever the fuck her name was, the Sonya's ex-girlfriend, Denarian. Like, she was pretending to be
Rosanna,
Rosanna. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she was trying to be vulnerable, to play the damsel, it was bait. It was a trap, and it was working on Sonya. Yeah. And Dresden was cynical enough to see through it. And it's just like, it's the same thing. I couldn't trust Lara to not be laying a trap. She might be genuinely vulnerable to him for a purpose.
Except that we've already seen that she has been, and she didn't have a purpose. I mean, unless, protecting Thomas, because the whole island thing, right? I'm just saying. So you've seen her powerless, but not necessarily the same kind of
No, that's vulnerable
thing,
is
so.
giving up something, but I think that she would only open up that way. I mean, yes, maybe it would be necessary to make a relationship work. I mean, it is necessary for making a relationship work, but for her, it would be laying traps, putting in some amount of control to Dresden, because that's what she does. That's how she survived. She is old, like Ebenezer old, and she has survived this way.
I mean, I would not discount the fact that it could easily start out that way, because in the beginning of whatever this political alliance marriage is going to be, both of them are going to be reverting back to their corners, I assume, initially. You know, Dresden's going to be the stubborn, you're an evil monster, I don't want to associate with you, and Lara's probably going to try and manipulate him, and that'll probably be the first event they do, is some kind of like she maneuvers him into doing what needs to be done for the sake of their appearances, and then it opens up and they do their thing.
Maybe. I mean, she's got every interest in it working out, right? So it kind of depends. And
well, that's the other thing at the moment. I mean, she's an ally. She's an ally if for no other reason than it's in her best interest to be, otherwise Mab swats her.
Well, and I mean at the specific moment, but I'm, again, we're kind of looking at, the books overall as well, right? Mm-hmm. And, other than a couple of, instances, like, I'm just weighing my words because I'm trying to, this is going to start a different fight, and I'm trying to figure out if it's worth it and if I'm going to stake it on that. But she's at least as adversarial with Harry as Karen was in the early books. There, I said it. So like her showing up and trying to kill him in Blood Rights, to me, doesn't strike all that much different than Karen knocking a tooth out in fucking Full Moon, right?
Sure.
Like, yeah, sure, she tried to kill him. Who the hell hasn't? Like,
I would still say Karen's worse, because at least she knew Harry before that, whereas Lara only had a little bit of a reputation, maybe.
I've known you for 5 minutes and already you made me want to kill you. But yeah, so like that doesn't count in my mind. We want to talk about White Knight, then sure. I absolutely think that she used Harry, but again,
she not only used Harry, she let the Scavis and the Malvorans, whatever, continue. She let them get caught and continue for a lot longer than they needed to be. And that's why he blamed her for it at the end.
I mean, yeah, but that's subjective, and again,
because
like it's a white court thing, her, right?
For not only for her competitors in the court to have been outed by Dresden and White Council and all that, but also it was breaking up what was going to become the Paranet. And like those people who had a little bit of power were being hunted, and so they were less capable of fighting back.
And yet we still
that was
the
Paranet,
and now Dresden's involved with the Paranet.
It did, but it's like it was the same people that were becoming, like, they were trying to make that structure because they had been targeted. She was targeting them so that they couldn't fight back.
See, more foresight. She knew the Paranet needed to be a thing, just like Bonnie. And I assume her argument would be, and the devil's advocate argument would be, fractioning within the White Court is bad, because then there's a potential stronger ally for the Red Court at the time. So if I point this big monkey with a club at my infighting, I can consolidate more power and bring stability.
Oh, she did consolidate more power. Too. And she is more stable.
Right. But the argument would be that is still helpful to him in the long run, in a not savory, but still beneficial way. That's the argument.
So we've made it through 3, and we're on our 4th one, and we're at like 50 minutes. So do we have enough consensus to try and rank her somewhere? Because I don't really see the director and I giving too much ground. And some of my stuff is like, I'm giving her credit on credit, because I think we started to see a little bit of something that we're going to see more of, especially as this deal unfolds. So one of us is going to be right, in the long run. But
I'm looking backwards at her past behavior. You're projecting forwards into what you think is going to happen, and we don't agree as to the shape of anything.
Well, and some
bottom
of
B tier it is.
That high, huh? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So I mean, unless the director has a strong objection, I'll let it stand, just because that'll get us moving on and
move forward,
be a compromise. So she's certainly not worse than Susan.
God, no.
That so because that's where we start to break ground a little bit too, right? Are you telling me that she's more or less of an ally than Susan is?
She's better than Butters too, but that's a different argument nobody else wants to have again.
I'm just waiting for your assent.
I've said a lot of words.
One or two of them even registered. I heard them.
Yeah. So bottom of B.
Sure. Which I don't think anyone is happy with, but it's like we can.
I
move
literally
forward.
don't care.
I don't necessarily need her to be highly rated. My argument was whether or not she was an ally, right? We didn't even get to where she fits.
Yes, there's some people who have been miscategorized, and everyone.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like at all. Do I?
I don't know. Do you?
Yeah, Maeve. It's just Maeve all over again, but we flipped sides. So.
It was Marcone all over again, and we flipped sides. Actually, no, I'm still on this thing.
Yeah. If it makes you feel better, we could put Marcone on both lists. We make up the rules. We could do whatever we want. So
that would make me feel better. Yes. We will be in part 3.
F tier. He's the worst ally because
Ramirez and Leah
because
and
he's a villain. So Leah, you'd put her down in F tier?
No.
Oh, you just want her for next episode?
Yes, part 3.
Yeah. All right.
Mab, top of S, the bestest.
No,
above
she's
S,
terrible.
S+. No, she's
terrible.
She's so amazing. I love her so much.
She's a great character, but she's a terrible ally. But it kind of depends. Like, if she's worried about Dresden's actual well-being, then she's a terrible ally. But if she's
caring for him as best as she knows how.
Yeah, right.
And she
like
knows
Edward
him so
Scissorhands, like, I'm just going to take care of you. So
she actually is effective. She didn't kill him for his own good. She threatened to kill him and pointed out, this is exactly what's going to happen unless you do exactly what I say. And because you are so stupid, I have to block you in on every side and bounce your head around an elevator to get you to see the point. Because he is that stupid. Because he won't ask the fucking question of what is a starborn. But if he did not follow exactly what Matt said, his brain was going to explode and Nicodemus was going to get away with it.
And she couldn't have possibly told him all of those things. Like,
if she had, he wouldn't have believed her. Even if the knowledge.
I think she's smart enough to get him to agree with other things than manipulation.
I think she could have easily said, "If you don't believe me."
I think if you don't believe me, ask Grasshopper would have been a really good way to cut through on the parasite, because she's deliberately kept Molly from him, who was the person who could not only identify it, but help him out with it. I'm just saying, I think she well fucking knew what other options than manipulating Dresden into what he was doing. And if Lara doesn't get to be an ally because of her manipulations, I think that should weigh in on Mab a little bit. Just saying.
Mab
Go ahead, spin that one.
Mab successfully gets him to do the things that he needs to do when he is going to fight her on every point just because of who she is. I think he has learned by the end of Battleground she has more of a point than that, and they can have a conversation even without pop culture references.
What? That's not possible.
Yeah. So I think they've got to that point now, but it did take a very long time. And in the meantime,
partially because Dresden's an idiot.
Yes, very much so. In the meantime,
manipulator.
She needed to make sure that he was going to do the needful, which was murder her daughter and survive and, deal with Nicodemus and see through exactly what she said and get his head bounced around the elevator.
All according to her plan.
Yes, it was. And it was perfect. It was wonderful.
Yeah, definitely one of the best lines in the entire book series is, yes, you defy me. Like, let's just fast forward this part. All right.
Exactly.
But that
she is the ally that we need.
Yeah, but not the one that we want right now.
No, I both need and want.
You both need and want Mab?
Yeah, he wants that rehab.
I would happily have. Yeah, Mab is exactly.
Is she fat?
You know how when Jack Nicholson says, "You want me on that wall, you need me on that wall," but a lot of it's bravado. Mab is the one I both want and need on the wall.
Yeah, all right.
No,
But does that make her an ally of Dresden or Team
yeah,
Reality?
Yeah.
All of the above.
You can't blow up the Reality. That's where I keep all my stuff.
Well, I mean, Mab is very much, she's Ebenezer on steroids, because if Ebenezer could simply shake Dresden and make him do what he wanted to do every time, but Mab actually has both the intelligence and the magical muscle and the bond to him to do it. So he's very much, I'm doing this for your own good. And then at the end of pretty much every book, he has to concede that, yes, that is actually what it was for my own good, in a lot of ways. And she also gives him a lot of rope that, I mean, Vatarung says this at the end of Cold Days. It's like, if anybody else did what you did, she would have turned them into dust. It's a little bit more, because you start out with the view that Harry has, where it's just evil fairy doing evil fairy things, and then part of it is need and want of him and what he represents, but the other part is recognizing there is something to be gained here. And I think the conversation during Cold Days, where he says, I will do exactly what you tell me to do and nothing else, and it becomes more of a partnership, even if it's only in name, is the real cementing of what would be considered an allyship, whatever you call that, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, partnership, working relationship, employment.
I mean,
those are all
she
terrible.
has a lot of.
Those are terrible arguments. I'm with EG so far, but
well, she's got a lot of latitude.
She's literally the evil overlord of your company, right? She's the evil CEO.
She has a lot of latitude in both spirit and word too. If she could easily have turned him into a drooling hound like Leah threatened to do. I mean,
it would keep him safer.
There's the inclination is always towards, okay, play it your way, see how that goes for you. She gives him all the rope to hang himself, and then is also ready to be there with the scissors, even if she's the one who put him in his back pocket without him knowing.
I mean, the way that Cold Days plays out, she did straight up tell him, kill Maeve, kill my daughter. And then he's doubting, like, why would you want to do that? And he doubts her for like 90% of the book. And that's exactly what she told me to do in the first place. I could have just trusted her. Nope, never going to do that. And then she has to be there to save his ass.
She's a bad guy.
Naked ass.
Just because she proved right at the end doesn't mean she's not still a bad guy and his distrust wasn't warranted. So,
I mean, he did find out that fairies were lying, which is very significant. It's just she wasn't one of them. And she lost her ability to speak.
Which fairies were lying, right? He spent 90% of the book trying to figure out if Mab was lying and what that would look like, or if Maeve was lying and what that would look like. And at the end of the day, like, wasn't one of the arguments like, look, man, if Mab's the crazy one, more of reality would be coming unraveled right now. And it's like, oh yeah. And it's like, even if she is crazy, do you really want to take out Mab?
That's what Titania's for.
Right.
See, and as Cody just pointed out, she put him in a no-lose situation in Skin Game. If that's not top of the ally list, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely a Mab play, if nothing else. So
like,
I think you should put John's comment up there because I think it's hilarious too. But she's terrible only if you're in an elevator. So
yeah.
But we're gonna go all the way to the top of S for this.
Yes.
Well, I mean, she could go at the bottom of S.
No.
Her placement in S is not going to be one I'm really going to argue about that much. I would happily put her over Murphy, but that's because I like her and I don't like Murphy.
I think it all comes down to, is she a top or a bottom? She's definitely a top.
Oh, she's a top.
So, that depends on how tall or short she wants to be on any given day.
Are we going back to that comment? Oh, I went too far, but
yes, Cody, I selectively highlighted the argument that helped mine. Thank you.
Yes, that's how debate works usually, actually. Fine.
Yes.
So you could be happy with that since
all the other argument we spent 50 minutes on.
Well, we spent like 20 minutes arguing about Lara, like all good arguments we have. So
about you two did. I just kind of sat here and laughed.
The empty space can have Vatarung in it.
You're gonna right in the middle.
Yep.
Right under Michael.
All right,
sure.
I guess we're doing Vatarung next.
Fine.
It's like who's arguing now?
Vatarung's not a good ally because he didn't say "God bless you" when I sneezed. I don't know. I mean, he's obviously an ally. He's again one of the only like top level powers who's selflessly helping Dresden. So
at
obviously,
no cost.
Or at least
He's
it appears
always
to
just
be, and we
there.
just don't know what his end game is yet.
right.
We know his end game. He wants to survive, and he thinks Dresden is necessary for his survival as well as everyone else.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I believe
that's that's not selfless.
No,
It's
no.
just-
advice normally costs a nickel, right? So
Yeah, no, he is easily the power that it's like,
Uh,
nothing comes for free except when it comes to Vatarung, apparently.
except for when it comes from me.
call it a delayed
Yeah.
Christmas present.
Well, that's the thing. He
Yeah.
has a little bit of flexibility when he's Santa to do that, but the fact that he also does it as essentially Odin is telling.
And he did that with a very important purpose because Harry didn't have a nickel, and who did he have to go for to get one? Yeah, that was the
His
lesson, the
friends.
whole point.
Right. But I mean, like, so you're not wrong with all of those things, but I think the point of Odin in the Dresden Files is that the reason why he's running around as Donner Vatarung and all of this other stuff is because he's the immortal that's breaking the rules by paying the price himself, right? None of the rest of them are willing to give up any of their power or their reach by doing the things that he does, but that's literally his thing, plus,
He's
Santa
very
Claus,
clever.
but
Well, I mean, he has mortality now, so he's got the freedom. I mean, if, as we found out, he has soul fire, that means he has a soul, or at least something close enough to the point where he has free will.
Eh,
In
I
the
gotta
same-
imagine Uriel's got Soulfire. So
I mean,
Right,
where
but
did he
but nobody's going to call Uriel immortal, right? Whereas you can
Uriel's not immortal?
not immortal,
Immortal
person,
or amortal?
Immortal.
Uriel is
Yeah,
not
but,
human.
I mean,
He does not have a
Whereas
death.
Vatarung gave
Vatarung
up his
seems-
godlyhood.
Vatarung / Odin seems pretty immortal since, he got bounced around by a Titan and lived to tell about it.
No. Extremely hardy is not the same thing as does not have a death. Odin has a
You're
death.
gonna make
and
me say it.
Hmm?
Asgardians very hard to perish.
Uh-huh.
So it's another movie reference you don't get, but it's obligatory. So
Yeah, see, the difference between him
it's
and
actually
say,
from a movie you liked, even.
the
It's
difference
from
between him and
Ragnarok.
say the Earl King, whereas I think he's probably stronger, is that I think if he had been essentially disintegrated from the top down, I don't think he would have recovered in the same way that the Earl King's mantle let him, because that's not who he is anymore.
I disagree, but yeah, it's academic at this point probably, and doesn't relate to the current topic at hand. So,
Well,
I
mean,
think-
it's just overall it points to the reason he has flexibility is because he gave up all these limitations, which includes living through everything. So that allows him to, one, stay in the game, and two, do more or less what he wants to do in the same way that you could not get information out of these other people. But that the trade-off of that is, someone can come along and stab you in the face and you die.
Or a wolf eats
Sure.
you. It's a wolf.
Anyway, so I'm fine with where he is. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's okay with me.
right. Do we keep going, or do we save it for next time?
I don't know.
I would say save it because as even though we came up with a few other people, I don't think we're going to have a huge amount. It's going to end up being like 3 or 4, and then we're
There's
really
easily
not going
10
to have.
others in there. Cat Sith and
Well, no, if we're
Delaney
actually
and-
putting in a couple other people like Leah Ramirez and 1 or 2 others, if we add them to this,
Marcone,
that's a solid
apparently.
8, right? So that's at least
Right.
something too.
yeah, I wouldn't bring it further than up to 10 because we obviously had problems going through all 10 today. So,
Well, I mean, we're putting Ramirez on just so we can go in F tier. So it really,
So we can have a very, very long
so we can have an
argument.
F tier. So we can have a spectrum here.
yeah.
And
It's-
Cody wants
it's
a part
funny
3,
because-
so who can we deny?
Yeah. I know, right?
Well, easily.
I'm
We can easily deny the fans. That's no problem.
not Cody, though. He's my favorite. So,
Sorry, everyone
But-
else.
yeah, well,
We all make bad
he also
life
pays
choices.
me to say that. So,
That's true.
Yeah.
So are
if
you really an ally, or are you just a dancing monkey?
oh, I'm a monkey, but I dance mostly to my own tune. I don't know.
See how it is.
But
All I have
every
to do is
monkey's
pay
gonna
you.
dance if you give them a banana. I mean, that's just
$5. I could have had Butters in the F tier. Good to know.
Yeah, okay.
You could outbid them. Yeah, that's it. Join us next time for Capitalist Tier List. Let's see
Who can buy the
put your
roster
money
spot for the person they
yeah,
want.
put your money where your mouth is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
some new
think
equipment.
so. So what do we do? Does everybody start at F and you have to pay to go up, or does everybody start at S and you have to pay to go down?
You have to do a tiny amount,
So-
like you put $1 for placement originally, and then you have to pay more than that to move them. So if someone pays $1 and puts someone in B, then someone has to pay $2 to move them off of B either direction, just to
See,
argue.
Oh yeah,
This is
no.
why
Then
she's the
easily we
director.
do it that
She's
way
the one
because
with the money
that would be the
sense.
easiest dollar I ever spent to have Butters in F and see how much money people are actually willing to spend to move them up.
That would
At
make you
least
so happy.
$2.
No, because I will keep countering.
Well, that's fine.
This will be like silent bidding, except it won't be so silent.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to excuse ourselves because I mean that just kind of defeats the purpose bidding against ourselves. Like we're the ones trying to make the dollars. Like,
See, Cody said he got paid, so he's ready to do this.
all right. So in a month, you know.
Yes,
Make
because
sure-
next week we're arguing about
Ah,
dragon
damn.
movies.
Are we arguing
Yeah.
about them, or are we discussing them, even though some of us aren't actually going to watch all of them?
You need to watch the one I found today, though. Oh my god,
That's probably the only one I've never actually seen, so I will have to probably watch that one.
How did
do
we
you,
not?
so
hear
how do you
of
not
this?
look at that tier list and be like, man, I should revisit some of these movies anyway, right? Like that's some of them. Like shit, I saw Ray and the Last Dragon when it came out. That's been like less than a year, right? But I watched it again. I still cried. It's great. So
I've never actually seen Ryan.
maybe you should watch it.
I mean,
Maybe.
at least watch the
If-
things that you haven't seen.
I'll consider that.
Right. Ooh.
Well, I like things like Dragonheart are on TV all the time, so I just end up catching half the movie at any given point every 3 months anyway.
I wish so. I think we've got it, but like it's the 21st century, so all of our DVDs are in a closet now where they belong. So it's that, or it's one of the few that I might actually like spend dollars to rent because for starters, the kids haven't seen it, so you know, and it's that kind of borderline of like too much, but you know, probably okay. So, but yeah.
You guys are a little
All right.
late, but I appreciate all the Butters hate. Thank you.
It just makes
You're
you
gonna spend $20 to put a whole new tier in. I kind of like that actually. So like for the E tier.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
E is
do it.
weird, but
S is weird too. I still someday somebody's gonna have to explain to me how that became a thing in Japan and why S tier is above A tier.
because there's like something to do, I think, with grades of like, but then everyone was getting really high grades, and so they had to make an even better one, and that one was S for some. I think it
Satisfactory.
superb, something like that. But it
I
was
was gonna
like
say
just have to.
the last time I got an S grade, I think was first grade.
I don't really know, but then they made all the games, and then the games become anime and everything, and then this is just how it goes. There's S is the best, and that's how it stays. Mab is at the top, as she should be.
M tier for Mab, and for like 83% of the other characters with M names.
Yes, yeah, because apparently we're doing this wrong. Okay, we will have a part 3 to argue about everyone else and dragons next week.
And since we reneged on our news, apparently Jim's kid wrote a book, so you know.
Oh,
yeah. What was it called again? Dead Man's Hand or something?
I just saw
Yeah.
the thing. I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
Jim Jr. Butcher,
I mean,
so
That is not his name.
It looks
It is his
okay.
name.
So